Hey everybody. So you might remember this actually because it was really only about a year and a half ago now, but a crazy video exploded on the internet in January of last year that showed a group of young people who were all employees at a smoothie shop taking the brunt of a rather aggressive, nasty tirade of anger from a much older man, it turns out he was 49, who was furious about the smoothie they had made for him, or rather, for his son. He can be seen screaming at the, quote, ignorant high school kids who made his son's drink because of the fact that they had used peanut butter when making the smoothie, despite the fact that the man had apparently told them not to. And the reason he had told them not to, as it turns out, was because his 17-year-old son had a potentially fatal peanut allergy and had taken sips from the smoothie before realizing it contained said peanut butter. As tends to happen when a person with a severe peanut allergy, fun fact, I have one myself, though it's much more mild than this kid sounds like. The man's son took a sip and suffered a severe allergic reaction. So with that premise established, this is the way that our story's Karen, and yes, men can be Karens, it's a mindset, not a biological factor, chose to express his anger over the incident.
Please don't yell at us.
Yeah.
Don't videotape me.
You have no room to yell at us.
I want to speak to the person who made this drink. Is that you?
No,
Well,
it
we don't
wasn't
know
me.
who made it,
You
so
don't know who made it?
there's 4 of us here, so we obviously don't know.
Stupid ignorant high school kids.
Okay,
I
bye.
want to speak to the
Bye. Okay, you can
Yeah,
call
stop,
corporate whenever you want. Goodbye.
Gianna, stop. You don't care.
bitch.
No, I don't care.
Give it to me right now.
What? Really? Oh, you're fine.
I'm calling the police. I'm calling the police.
I want the telephone number.
Gianna,
I want the
stop.
telephone number. Shut the
Shut up. Get out. Call corporate right now.
You're
Bye.
a idiot.
Okay, good for you. Bye.
I want the
Bye.
number.
Bye.
Shut up.
You shut up. You're not gonna tell me to shut up. Who are you? Who are you?
Loser.
What? You. Get the
out. Get the out.
out. You're going to jail. You're going to jail, you racist piece of shit.
I want the telephone.
Bro, call the police now.
I want the telephone number.
So look it up. I don't give a fuck what you want. Look it up and you want the telephone number. You can call right now if you want. I don't care. I don't care.
Okay. Right.
Like, out of here. Respectfully, out of here. You're bugging.
Go lock the
You're
door.
bugging. Like, you're literally bugging.
Yeah, I'm fucking.
You're bugging.
My son is almost in the
That's not my phone right now.
Please come Rosie, you guys Fairfield? On Blackhawk Turnpike.
Look it up and you can call the phone number.
I want the manager
He's yelling through a drink at
right
us,
now.
Okay.
and he tried to break
Like
the
I said, you can look it up.
Yeah, I can look it up. Your telephone number is busy.
Okay, for you. Goodbye.
Call it. Give me your phone. Give me your phone. Give me your phone.
Goodbye. You can get out of my store now.
Telephone number from manager.
Gianna, give me your phone.
That's your way forever. Honestly, so I really don't care.
He's quiet. No, don't call Rosie. Call Rosie. Does he say that? You talk to her. I'm sorry?
Rosie, somebody's in here and he's freaking cursing us out, and he threw a smoothie at us. He's threatening us. He tried to come behind this door. We're calling the cops. He won't leave. He keeps screaming at us.
He won't leave.
Holy moly. Okay, so the man's primary charge during this unbelievable tirade we just witnessed was that the employee who made the smoothie was acting negligently in failing to leave the peanut butter out of the smoothie, and regardless of whether this man's reaction was insane and entirely unjustifiable, and I would posit it clearly is, well, let me put it this way. He apparently wasn't just hurling smoothies. He was also hurling racial epithets at these girls. Apparently one of them was Hispanic. He was making all kinds of awful comments about questioning her immigration status, just stuff that you don't say. No matter how mad you are, it's entirely inappropriate, obviously racist. So anyway, According to Newsweek, the man in the video, who is identified as James Iannazzo, and by the way, Dinesh found this guy. I saw that Dinesh was upset in one of his videos that his finding this guy was kind of pulled, like he was never given credit for finding this guy, so I will be the first one to give him proper credit. Dinesh unequivocally found James Iannazzo. So James Iannazzo ordered this smoothie for his son at approximately 1:05 p.m. on Saturday, January 22nd. Now, according to him, he stressed that the order couldn't contain peanut butter because his son was allergic. Then, according to a police report from the Fairfield Police Department, at 1:39 p.m., Iannazzo placed a 911 call requesting emergency response services for his son regarding a serious allergic reaction. And according to the Iannazzo family, they called 911 after they found their son passed out on the bathroom floor and had to administer 2 epi shots, which, for those of you who may not know, are the shots that you give someone who is having a very serious anaphylactic allergic reaction. Then, and this part is kind of weird to me, when his son was being transferred to the hospital nearby to the emergency room, Iannazzo decided that right then would be an entirely appropriate time to go back to the smoothie shop, which was a chain called Robex Smoothies, where the tirade we just witnessed took place. Of the 4 employees allegedly involved in this incident, 2 spoke out to news outlets afterward. Gianna Miranda, who was the girl hit by the smoothie that Iannazzo threw, she's totally fine, by the way. There was no, she wasn't actually hurt by that, but it's still something you just obviously don't do. So we have Gianna Miranda, the girl who got hit by the smoothie, and Charlie Hill, who took the viral video of the incident that we just watched. According to Hill, who gave an interview to a local Connecticut news station called WFSB, the man never actually specified that the drink was for someone with peanut allergies, saying that he simply requested that the drink contain no peanut butter or peanuts, but failed to specify why. In another interview with NBC News, she said, "Speaking generally, there are options when ordering either on an app or in person to alert the staff of an allergy. Then staff would follow protocols to avoid direct or cross-contamination." Hill did not make Iannazzo's drink, and apparently had only just arrived at the store when this was popping off, and so couldn't speak to how it was made or what ingredients were used in or around the smoothie. He just said no peanuts in it, she said, but if you don't say you have a nut allergy, which is an option on the app and in person, we use different stuff if there's a nut allergy, so he didn't tell us he had an allergy, she said. It sounds like there's no dispute that the order was specified as a no peanut butter order, but that the specification that the request was given because of a life-threatening allergy was never made. Now, call me crazy, and again, maybe this is because I have an allergy myself and I've been personally dealing with this kind of back and forth my whole life, but I would think that it wouldn't be difficult to determine that someone who is normally, at least, when someone is asking for no peanuts, it's because of an allergy. There aren't a whole lot of people out there who just don't like peanut butter because of the taste, at least from what I can tell. I certainly don't, but again, I have a reason. So perhaps there is an argument to be made that this was the result of some semi-irresponsible behavior, but I'm curious to hear everyone's read on this specific detail of the story in the comments below. I'm sure we'll have some great arguments over this part. Okay, but what happened to James Iannazzo, our story's Karen, as a result of this incident? It's been some time now, and there was, indeed, some punishment. So the first thing to happen was that Iannazzo was arrested. He apparently had left the store already by the time the cops showed up, but when police identified him and reached out to inform him he was under arrest, he opted to turn himself in. According to the police report from the incident, Iannazzo was charged with intimidation based on bigotry or bias in the second degree, breach of peace in the second degree, and criminal trespass in the first degree. He was issued a court appearance date of February 7th at Bridgeport Superior Court. Now, this trial did end up happening, and we do know what happened with these charges, and we are definitely going to get into it in just a second. But something else important happened to Iannazzo in the immediate aftermath of this madness. The video was discovered, as I'm sure some of you guessed it would be, by Iannazzo's employer. And it turns out Iannazzo is, or should I say, was, employed for no less than 25 years by a major financial services firm you have almost definitely heard of, Merrill Lynch. And he wasn't just any financial advisor either, because according to numerous reports, he was actually listed by Forbes as one of the top 25 wealth advisors in the state of Connecticut, which granted is a state of like 400 people, but still quite a job to lose. And lose it he did, because Merrill Lynch spokesman Bill Halden actually confirmed to Newsweek firsthand that the company had decided to fire Iannazzo over his outburst. The company released a public statement that reads, in brief, "Our company does not tolerate behavior of this kind. We immediately investigated and have taken action. This individual is no longer employed at our firm." Very short, very sweet, very to the point. We got rid of him. So Iannazzo is now both fired and charged at this point. This whole incident has blown up in his face, and he's probably feeling very silly right about now if he has any capacity to do so. Particularly given, and this is important to mention too, his son did end up being fine. Obviously, it's very scary. Your son has a serious reaction. You find him passed out on the ground. I wouldn't wish that experience on anyone, but the kid ended up being fine. But what about this court case, these 3 charges he's facing? Did he do the time for doing the crime? Initially, he pled himself not guilty on all 3 counts, but after a contentious court hearing, which concluded that April, so 3 months after, Superior Court Judge Peter McShane opted to grant Iannazzo something called accelerated rehabilitation. We'll refer to that as AR from this point onward. And basically what this means is that Iannazzo had to serve a year of probation, and if he commits another crime in that time period, then he'll be in trouble. After that year is up, however, he's free to commit as many petty crimes as he wishes. I'm just kidding, of course, but this always seems like a ridiculous part of the law to me. So you break the law, and your punishment is that you're essentially not allowed to break the law again for a year. And you can basically commit 1 petty crime a year as a result of this, I guess. And if you're going to commit several crimes, like our story's antagonist here, be sure to commit them all at once. Or wait, no, actually, you'll still be fine if you commit them all at different times. Just ask Mia Ponsetto. Basically, just be rich, and you're fine. The judge did, however, order Iannazzo to donate a whopping $500 to a good cause, though appears to have failed to specify what that good cause was, or was supposed to go to. After handing down the sentence, the judge reportedly stated that Frank Iannazzo would, quote, forever be known as the Smoothie guy, unquote, alluding to his new public reputation as though it were a punishment all its own. And perhaps it was, but there was a lawyer representing the smoothie shop employees, one Timothy Aspinwall, who was very upset about this slap on the wrist. I guess maybe just because he's a lawyer and he lost the case and didn't get what he wanted out of it. And maybe rightfully so he was upset, but this guy Aspinwall chastised the judge for the soft sentence and chastised the state prosecutor for failing to slap harsher charges on the crimes. He said, quote, he traumatized 4 high school students and assaulted one of them, referring to the Smoothie clip. Granting AR will send a cold message to the Black and Hispanic members of the community, unquote. Aspinwall also provided the judge with a petition apparently signed by 200 people opposing the accelerated rehab program being granted to the defendant. On behalf of the student who was the victim of the smoothie throw, Aspinwall apparently launched a separate civil case against Iannazzo as well. And we now have the results of that separate civil case. Apparently they settled for $7,500. So that's what Iannazzo ended up paying this girl for throwing a smoothie at her. So our story's Karen got off pretty soft, I would say, and was punished in the technical sense, but not in any useful sense at all at this point. The state prosecutors seemed to believe that the fact the smoothie assault didn't cause any physical harm means it wasn't worth punishing as harshly as, say, a punch in the face or someone spitting on someone else. And the judge seemed to think that the embarrassment and loss of employment was enough punishment to send him a message. But was it? Was James Iannazzo aptly punished by society alone, or was this too soft an outcome for what transpired? Do you think that the circumstances surrounding his rage, his son being in the hospital because an employee apparently didn't follow instructions, enough to make his rage, irrespective of the way he delivered that rage, by the way, which was, again, clearly unjustifiable, more understandable? Or was that simply an excuse Iannazzo and his lawyer used for his going ballistic on camera to a bunch of teenagers and facing the consequences of those actions? Iannazzo made this final statement on the incident, saying, quote, "My actions at Robex were wrong, and I deeply regret them. They do not reflect my values or my character. I feel terrible that I lost my composure so completely." End quote. Oh, sorry, no, there's more. "I had returned to Robex to determine what ingredients were in the smoothie that I had previously ordered." End quote, for real this time. You'll notice he made no mention there of the fact that he never should have said any of the racist stuff that he did, and he never should have thrown a smoothie at that girl, and he never should have cussed out a bunch of young people and apparently threatened them before the video started. He really didn't bother to address the race aspect at all. I find that rather telling. Now, you may be thinking that this is the end of James Iannazzo's punishment arc, but not so. We have some good news, actually, and some bad news. The bad news, I always like to start with the bad news, is that only a month after being fired from Merrill Lynch, so March, he was apparently hired on by another financial firm called Aegis Capital, Aegis. And perhaps we can at least take some comfort in the fact that this was a huge downgrade from his other position at Merrill Lynch. But the good news part is pretty wild. Check this out. So on January of this year, according to a story by Investment News, and I confirmed there was several other news stories that also said this, James Iannazzo is, since November of last year, the subject of an inquiry, an investigation by FINRA, which is, if you don't know, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, going so far as to make a preliminary decision to slap some form of disciplinary action on Iannazzo. Why? Because apparently, get this, Iannazzo may have been violating industry rules by structuring his cash transactions in his personal bank and brokerage accounts to avoid federal reporting requirements. So this guy really is a piece of work, and it sounds like James Iannazzo will be getting his just desserts after all. All right, that's our story for today. Drop your reckoning mendations below, and I'll see you in a couple days. Bye.